Resident Evil 2 Remake fans notice fascinating detail about the game's zombies. So I'm a huge fan of Resident Evil 2 Remake. I really enjoyed what they were able to do with the game as far as, kind of going in the direction that they did for a remake for Resident Evil 2. I do have a few gripes here and there that I don't like about the game itself compared to the original. For instance, the fact that when you play as, Leon or Claire, there really isn't too much of a difference in the story. It's pretty much the same events that happen, except from a different individual, which wasn't how the original game was. In the original, it was one of those things that if you played as Leon, you specifically had a route that you went that would be different than what Claire would experience, and you know what I mean, vice versa. So the fact that they kind of changed that a little bit in the remake wasn't something I was necessarily a fan of. But at the end of the day, I do really enjoy the game. It is something that I've gone back to and played multiple times. I have been able to unlock, I think, everything that was needed for the most part, as far as like being able to get like all the infinite weapons and all that type of stuff. So I love this game and I'm a huge fan of it. So the fact that there is some information that we're getting still to this day about the game itself, I think is really cool, especially considering how disappointing, in my opinion, Resident Evil 3 remake was. I was actually looking forward to that one when it came out, really hoping that they were going to be able to do the same thing that they did with the second sequel. I mean, I'm sorry, the second remake. But it was a bit of a disappointment in my opinion. So I'm just going to go over this article per usual, go over some of the information that they gave us, and then just give my thoughts as we go along. So fans have pointed out that bite marks have distinct sites for each zombie in Resident Evil 2 2019. Various elements distinguish enemies in Resident Evil games. For instance, some prefer the zombies in Resident Evil 2 because their bodies stay around longer than the enemies in other games like Resident Evil Village. As that title's lichens disappear quickly after a fight, approaches like this can help players notice tiny details like the aforementioned bite marks. Many are still guessing what's coming next for the Resident Evil series, with Resident Evil 7 offering the mold and the more recent Resident Evil Village introducing Lycan's enemies. The franchise could either pull from its expansive pool of existing monsters or bring in new ideas. In addition, it could be interesting for many players to see what details stick out the most from the upcoming game's enemies. And, with the whole Resident Evil 9 coming out, obviously I feel like they're going to go in the direction, with the same kind of enemies they had for Resident Evil Village and just kind of continue on from that point. But personally, I would actually prefer if they did kind of go back to the zombie route and they did kind of do something similar to Resident Evil 2, as well as the fact that, with Resident Evil 2, the zombies were so detailed, which is something they'll kind of we'll get a little bit more into detail about. But the different things that you could do with the zombies, I thought was really cool. So we'll go ahead and continue on. Devoted Resident Evil 2 fans have taken another look at the 2019 remake, pointing out that the zombies in this title all have distinct marks indicating their infection site. Character models and gameplay screenshots both show off this detail, with police officers and civilians bearing various versions of the bite. It's evident that most of the zombies in Resident Evil 2 appear to have gone for the neck with their victims. In comparison to the rest of the rot on these characters, the bite is often more isolated and messy, showing signs of a struggle. For police officers, the bite was generally higher up in their bodies, showing that the protective clothing was otherwise quite effective. And then we got a little Reddit post right here. So, something insanely detailed and worth examining is how almost every zombie in Resident Evil 2 Remake has visible marks that show exactly how the person got infected before mutating. And that's one of the cool things that, I really, like I mentioned, I do love about Resident Evil 2 was the details that they were able to go in with these zombies. So, it is one of those things that, when you do kill the zombies, like they mentioned, they fall, the zombies kind of stick around. And one of the things that I did, because I played the game so much and was, like I mentioned earlier, was able to like unlock a lot of like the unlimited ammo and different things like that, different types of weapons. I would kill the zombies honestly and then just keep shooting at them and just seeing what happens. So you can actually like shoot off limbs, make their heads explode, and just all kinds of different things that was really cool that you were able to actually do. That for some reason, and I'm pretty sure it's because of the fact that it was different developers for Resident Evil 3, you couldn't do the same type of things that you could with the zombies from Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 2, it seemed like they had just put in that much more work to be able to actually have you do all these little details that if you're just trying to like speed through it or you're just trying to play the game once and not really go back to it, you probably wouldn't notice. But as someone that like myself that has played the game multiple times and was able to kind of do a lot of these little details, see these little details and do these different playthroughs like that, you do notice how much work and effort was put into this game in itself, which is in my opinion so great. I love it so much, the fact that they cared about this game so much. And that's the sad thing when you go back to playing Resident Evil 3 is that it seems like it's a downgrade even though the game came after 2, as well as the like I mentioned before, the developing team was different. So if that's the case, it is unfortunate and it is really sad because there was a lot of cut content from Resident Evil 3's original game to the remake. So you would have hoped that the same type of love and care that was done for Resident Evil 2 would have went into that one, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. So gamers have noted their awe at details like this in Resident Evil 2, despite being a title made for the last gen hardware and newer titles like Resident Evil 4 2023 and Resident Evil Village being able to take full advantage of modern consoles. Resident Evil 2 remains impressive with touches like the bite marks being a clear example of Capcom's technical prowess. And that is one of the things as well. I know that the zombies, quote unquote, for Resident Evil 4 was the Granados and all that. So I mean, it is one of those things where even I feel like with that game, there wasn't as much detail put into it as there was with Resident Evil 2, which, like they stated, was really just showing like the love and care that was done for Resident Evil 2, which is something I really appreciate when it comes down to that game. So, fans in the comments can be seen expressing gratitude at details like this even existing in the first place, which is, yeah, again, very true in that regard. After all, with most of the game's zombies are already quite disfigured and players are just trying to get away from them, it's unlikely they take a lot of time to notice these details. And then just got a couple of the photos here and there that you can see. Unfortunately, a lot of these are pretty blurry, so you can't really see the details and like the bite marks and everything like that. And then there are some where it does look like they had already shot some of the zombies, so you can't really see that as well in that regard. But if you haven't played the game, I definitely would recommend it, going back and actually seeing the things that you can do with the zombies, which is really cool. So, interesting aspects like the bite marks in Resident Evil 2 add to the increasing expectations for the next Resident Evil game. Although there's little official info available about the series' future, it's clear that fans will be expecting the next Resident Evil game to be an ambitious release that pushes the series forward. It's unclear what the enemies in Resident Evil 9 will be, but fans' response to this Resident Evil 2 detail suggests that many will be hoping the new foes are similarly detailed. And that's like all you can really wish for is that, with the next game that does come out, there are rumors that it is going to be Leon Kennedy that you're going to be playing, and then Jill Valentine, which personally I'm really happy because those are actually my favorite two characters in the series. I got other ones that I like as well, but those two are the ones that I just love and appreciate the most just because I love Resident Evil Remake so much. And, that's where you can kind of play as Jill. And I love Resident Evil 4 as well. I consider Resident Evil 4 the original, one of my favorite game of all time, actually. So that is one thing that I am looking forward to, that if they are going to go that route, you are going to be playing as those two. But I am kind of hoping as well that there is a lot of detail like there is with Resident Evil 2 as far as the enemies go and different types of things you can do in that regard. Because I haven't played Resident Evil Village in a long time, but I feel like the zombies in that one, the enemies that you face up against, because I don't think it's zombies necessarily, are aren't really that detailed in the same way that it is for Resident Evil 2. So if they decided to go that route, I think it would be something that would work great for the series, as well as just have fans, individuals like myself, just really appreciative of what the game's developers and everything like that will be able to accomplish and be able to show in regards to showing that kind of love and care for the series. So just some information on that. I thought this was pretty cool. I thought this was pretty nice to hear, especially because like I said, I'm such a big fan of Resident Evil 2 remake. So I love this, honestly. I think this is really cool. So those are my thoughts on that. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Is this something that you guys think is pretty cool? Have you guys noticed these types of things in the game itself for any fans that did play it? And like I said before, if there is anyone out there that hasn't gotten the chance to play Resident Evil 2, I definitely recommend it. It's such a fun game. It has a lot of replayability to it, and it's just something I really enjoyed. So if you guys can leave your thoughts in the comments, if you guys could like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you guys have been watching this long, I really appreciate it. It means a lot. And yeah, until next time, Harmonic out. Peace.